Hey guys, it's John from JRAR. Today we're going to talk about the nitrogen cycle and how to do a fishless aquarium cycle. First, the nitrogen cycle is how bacteria break down fish waste and turn it from ammonia to nitrite to nitrate. In order for that cycle to take place, you need nitrifying bacteria to grow in your filters. It'll also grow in your gravel or your substrate. It'll grow on any surface. And without that bacteria, the ammonia would get so high that it would eventually poison and kill your fish. Ammonia is the byproduct of fish respiration, so when they breathe out, they actually breathe out ammonia. It's also caused by fish waste, like their poop, uneaten food, and things like that. So without that bacteria to absorb it, it's very toxic. It's so toxic that it can kill your fish. Which is why you need to slowly cycle your tank, because if you add too much fish waste, your ammonia gets too high, there's nothing there to absorb it, and your fish will die. There's bacteria that's actually windborne. You don't have to physically add it to your tank. It will eventually just show up. That turns that ammonia into less harmful nitrite. Now, nitrite will interfere with your fish's breathing, so you want those levels to come down. And there's another bacteria that comes along that turns that nitrite into nitrate. Nitrate is not the greatest, but it's also not toxic, especially in small amounts. If it gets like super high, it can be really bad, but for the most part, it's not that lethal. And then that's removed by just doing water changes. And that brings us to a fishless cycle. Now, a lot of times, like back in the old days, they would just say to start out with a few small fish to get that ammonia going. And then, so as that ammonia level, it goes up, but it doesn't go up very high. And it's at a low enough rate where your fish can survive it. And then that bacteria comes, and it takes about a month for your tank to fully cycle. Now, you can do that with fish, small fish, starter fish, like I said, or you can do it just by adding ammonia. Some people will do a fishless cycle by adding like fish food, which breaks down and rots in your tank and creates ammonia. They also do that by adding like grocery store shrimp, which rots in your tank and breaks down and creates ammonia. But that also introduces flesh-eating bacteria that need to break down that meat or break down that fish food into ammonia, which is something that you don't want in your tank. So I don't recommend adding fish food, and I don't recommend adding raw fish. I like to add just pure ammonia. I get the pure ammonia straight from I get it from the hardware store. I get it from Ace. It contains 10% ammonia hydroxide. There's no other additives. There's no phosphorus. It's just ammonia. So you can only do this with a fishless cycle. If you add this to a tank with fish in it, your fish will die. And this is a lot better than using shrimp or fish food, because in order to do a cycle and in order to do it quickly, you need to get your ammonia to a readable level. You need to get it high. Like I like to keep it really high. And so in order to get your ammonia that high, you have to add a lot of fish food or a lot of dead shrimp. And do you really want a bunch of dead shrimp or a bunch of fish food stinking up your house? And the answer to that is no. So just use pure ammonia. And like I said, you could get this at the hardware store. Another thing you're going to need are these. They're called ammonia alerts. These you just put in your tank, and that little circle in the middle will turn green when there's ammonia in the tank. This is the easiest way to do it. You can physically test your ammonia to see how much is in there, but since there's nothing in the tank that's alive, you don't have to be like super accurate. You just have to know if it exists or not. And then when you can come to the end of the cycle, then you can be a little bit more meticulous in testing when you start testing for nitrates and nitrites and ammonia before you add fish. All right, so here I have our fish tanks, if you will, that I'm going to be setting up. One is saltwater, one is freshwater. And you could do this at home, you know, like when you do your fishless cycle, it doesn't really matter freshwater or saltwater. Like I said, the bacteria is airborne, so you don't necessarily even need to go out and buy bacteria to add. You can, you're more than welcome to. There's some really great products out there that are the live nitrifying bacteria, but they're not instant. They will reduce the cycle though. So the first thing is we're going to add these to the tanks, and those are going to be able to tell me at a glance how much ammonia is in the system. Then we're going to take our ammonia, and you can count drops, like how many drops to add. You can measure it out with a turkey baster or a big syringe or something like that. I just like to pour it in. Like I said, there's no, in a fishless cycle, there's no fish in there. There's nothing that's alive. So it doesn't really matter how much you add because it's not going to kill anything. So as you can see, that center circle has turned bright blue. That means there's ammonia in the tank, which is what we were going for in the first place. And eventually, as that bacteria grows in this filter media, that will turn back to yellow. And then I will add a little bit more ammonia. And then when it turns to yellow, I'll add a little bit more. And then in about 2 or 3 weeks, this will be completely cycled. This is a great way to start a filter, or to start a tank, by the way. This is all filter media in here. These are Marine Pure balls by Media. These are really, really great filter media. And now once these are done, I'll be able to take these and put them into my tanks to seed those tanks and speed up the cycle. And this is just a really great way to do that because I don't have to worry about quarantining fish. I don't have to worry about any diseases that would be introduced by starter fish. I don't have to worry about stinking up my house or introducing flesh-eating bacteria by adding a handful of dead shrimp to a tank. This is just a really easy way to start a tank. Today is March 19th. We'll come back for in a couple of weeks when these are cycled, and we'll check back then.